Hello, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things natural dyes and share natural dye tutorials with you. I'm really looking forward to sharing today's tutorial with you because it is indigo season. As you can see, my hands are blue. And I actually had to do this tutorial in reverse. I had to film this after doing the process part because of the nature of indigo. So today's tutorial is going to be all about the salt rub fresh leaf indigo method. I think that I discovered this method the way that many other natural dyers did when a video of a Japanese woman using this method circulated through a lot of natural dye blogs and Facebook groups. I was really drawn to this method because it seemed like a lot of fun to do. You got to get your hands in it, get dirty. It seemed really efficient and effective in transferring the color onto fiber. And at this point, I had only known about the blender method I was introduced to by John Marshall. So it was something new to try with fresh leaf indigo. And it also uses a lot less water. So there's a lot of win-wins with this method, and I really enjoy doing it, and I hope that you do too. So I had to film the process part of this video first for a couple of reasons. One being that I wanted to get to my leaves early in the morning because it's best to pick them when they're still full of moisture before the sun has had a chance to get to them. And then once you pick the leaves, you have a really short period of time to work with them. Because indigo leaves have something called indican, which is the precursor to indigo, and they also separately hold a glucose. And when the cells are ruptured and those two things come together, they form something called indoxyl. And that's the color that you're trying to trap and use when you do fresh leaf indigo. But as soon as that indoxyl mixes with oxygen, it becomes something called indigotin, which is that indigo blue pigment that we all know. Once it turns into indigotin, it's no longer water soluble and it can't attach to fiber without being reduced. And so this actually works best on protein fibers, but I work primarily with cellulose fibers, so I'm always trying to find out how I can get these methods that work well on protein fibers to work well on cellulose fibers. And so for this method, I have pre-treated my fibers that I'll be using in soy milk. And I have a blog post on how to do this. And I also highly recommend John Marshall's book, Salvation Through Soy, if you want to really dive deeply into soy and all the ways that it can be used for natural dyeing. I just wrapped up filming a YouTube tutorial also about soy milk, so be on the lookout for that as well. But quickly, in a nutshell, because soy is a protein that becomes attached to your fiber, a soy-treated fiber will act more like a protein fiber than a cellulose fiber. Today, I'm going to be using about 2.5 times the amount of leaves to fiber, so it is quite a high concentration, but I'm doing this because I want to then take the sludge and experiment with it further, and I wanted there to be some pigment left over in that. I don't need to use such a high weight of fiber to get color. So because I've already done this process for this tutorial, I don't have the supplies to show you on the table today, but it's very simple and you need very few things. For harvesting your indigo, you might want a bowl that you can put cold water in to keep those stalks as fresh as possible while you're harvesting, and then you can just stick them right into the fridge until you're ready to use them. You want a bowl for the actual mashing. I like to just use a big stainless steel bowl. You'll need some salt, and if you want to weigh your fiber and your leaves, you're gonna want a scale. You'll need a water source, and that's really it. You can maybe use gloves if you don't want to end up like me. Of course, the fiber that you're going to be dyeing. These fresh leaf methods can really open the door to so much exploration, whether it be indie rubin, whether it be looking for the other constituents that are available in an indigo plant, or even vatting it. There's just so much to explore. A lot of these techniques and further explorations I will be sharing in an upcoming indigo course, so be on the lookout for that. I'm also commonly asked on Instagram why the color isn't transferring when people try to use this method. And I do believe it's because people aren't massaging for a long enough time. So keep going. You want to massage for 10, 15, 20 minutes until you really see that color start to transfer, and you will start to see the color. And you'll see in this tutorial how the color goes from hardly any color at all to greens to this tealish blue color. So I've picked my indigo and they're on their stalks, and I have a bowl of cold water here, and I'm working fast. I'm gonna remove the leaves, and then I'm going to place them in this cold water and place them in the fridge so they can stay cold while I talk about what we're going to be doing today. And so something really cool about indigo is that you can root the stems super easily, and you just stick them in a cup of water, and then you can plant them once they form roots and increase your harvest. It might be a little late in the season at this point for me to try, but something that I love about indigo and growing indigo is that it's always worth a shot. Experimenting just comes hand in hand with indigo. So we'll see if I can plant those and get a later harvest. Okay, so I have my leaves here that have been soaking in cold water, and I just want to really quickly weigh them. I'm gonna have to account for the fact that there's some water moisture on there, so they're gonna appear to be a little heavier than they actually are. So it says about 330 grams, which I'm going to guesstimate has about 20 or 30 grams of water. So I would say it's probably about 300 grams of leaves. Okay, so now for the fun part, we are going to massage the salt into our leaves. So I'm putting gloves on just because I've learned how long it takes for the blue to go away, but you don't have to wear gloves if you don't mind some blue hands. As far as the amount of salt to use, there's really no recipe out there, no rule. So I'm also just using this fine salt that we use in my kitchen to cook. So I've also tried it with a coarser salt, and it worked fine as well. And I'm just gonna maybe start with around a teaspoon. You can always add more. And you're just gonna squeeze it in. Mix it around so the salt kind of covers all the leaves. And I think the true purpose of the salt is just like when you put salt on a vegetable to kind of break it down and draw out the moisture. Like if you've ever made like zucchini bread, and the recipe will tell you to go ahead and put salt on the zucchini so you can squeeze out all the excess moisture before you bake with it. So I think it just does the exact same things to this plant. And it just breaks it down. And I'm going to just go ahead and bring you overhead so you can just see what the rest of this process looks like. Okay, so that's always so much fun. And somehow I always manage to get it inside my gloves. Tighter fitting gloves would probably be helpful, but we don't ever use those. I don't even know why we have those gloves, so I just used what I had on hand. But that's okay, because having blue hands is kind of a fun conversation starter, especially at the playground. Other moms are like, markers? Paint? I'm like, actually it's indigo. It's actually really surprising because indigo is such a huge part of our color history, but so few people actually know what it is. So it's a fun way to talk about natural dyes and get that conversation started. But I have found that ever since historical fiction has become more popular, like the Outlander books, are there any Outlander fans watching this? Where they mention natural dyeing, that more people are beginning to know what it is. And I think that's so awesome. And especially since some of those books have been made into TV shows. And I don't actually own a TV, but I think that's a really cool side effect of people watching those kinds of TV shows. So anyways, our results are in. And so these are still wet, of course. But here is the soy treated cotton onesie. There's still some little pieces hanging on. And then here is the soy treated bamboo silk, which is a little brighter blue. So they're gonna lighten considerably when they dry. And I did rinse these because I went ahead and I added all of my sludge to a pot. I'm gonna play with Indie Rubin extraction now, but I wanted to rinse all the sludge off of these, so they have been rinsed. Sometimes if I'm not going to do that, I won't rinse them right away, but you can see how the cotton's a little greener and the silk, or the bamboo silk, is a little bluer, more aqua. So I'm gonna hang those to dry, and then I'll give them a really good rinse tomorrow, and I'll be posting follow-ups on Instagram so you can see what these look like dry. And I keep meaning to dye myself a kerchief. I keep forgetting, so next time that's what I'm gonna do. But I feel really pleased, and I think I massaged probably for 10 minutes to get this amount of colors. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any more questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below, or you can find me over on Instagram at The Barefoot Dyer. I hope that you all have a wonderful day.